John Niehaus, Director of Program Development for the National Association of Flight Instructors. I'd like to welcome you to the first edition of NAFI NOTAMs for 2021, the January edition, of course. And we're going to take a little bit of a different swing on this one, and we're going to do story time. So, I went home for the holidays, and I was reading my son a book from my parents' basement, apparently from when I was a kid. And I stumbled across Mickey Mouse Heads to the Sky, of course, by the Walt Disney Corporation. And it is a little golden book, just in case you may or may not remember these. And I was reading it, and I realized that not only does Mickey Mouse have a flight instructor, but Mickey Mouse and his flight instructor both would have been violated on numerous occasions by what's in this book. Documenting it was probably not a great idea. So it was published in 1987, and even based on the rules back then, I'm still fairly certain that both Mickey and his instructor, Ducky, would have had their certificates revoked, and probably a 709 ride for Ducky. So we'll go ahead and get started here, and I'm not going to necessarily read every page, but we'll just kind of get the gist of it. Essentially, Mickey is driving one day, and he sees an airplane, as we all do, and decides, well, I'm going to start learning to fly. It's a great thought. If you are not a pilot and you're watching this, and you've ever thought about becoming one, now's the time. So, of course, Mickey decides step one in becoming a pilot is looking like a pilot. I think we've all done this at one point or another. I had aviators for years. Functional, but also stylish. I think we've all had a leather coat at one point too. I can't say I ever went to the leather cap or goggles or scarf, but there's still time. So he decides to go shopping to look like a pilot. Now here's where we get into the meat and potatoes of this. The next day, Mickey went to the airport for his first lesson. He met his teacher, Ducky. Lindy. I bet it's really easy to fly, said Mickey. Birds fly by just flapping their wings. That's true, says Ducky, but an airplane is pretty complicated. Now let's unpack this. First and foremost, we've got a duck here who happens to be a bird. Mickey's telling the bird that all you have to do is fly by flapping your wings, and yet somehow the bird is still flying an airplane. Okay, we may be reading into this a little too much, but the thing that kind of cheeses me off sometimes is this notion that it's really easy. So easy that anybody can do it. Now, I'm not a fan of discouraging anybody to fly, but let's call it what it is. It is not easy. It takes practice. It takes skill. It takes a lot of work. Now, can anybody put in the work to get it? Yes. And that's how I think we should be phrasing it. But just going around saying, hey, it's easy. If an idiot like me can do it, then just about anybody can. We're all sort of self-deprecating, but let's make sure that we continue to have value in what we do and what we teach. So, Mickey sat next to Ducky in the cockpit. Oh my, Mickey said with a sigh. Look at all these knobs. I think we've all had that thought in one airplane or another. How will I ever remember them all? Practice, answered his teacher. Let's begin right away. Well, that's all good. Practice, complication, understanding that students may be overwhelmed in their first one. However, I hope there maybe is some things here that they're not saying, because if Mickey just jumped in an airplane with no ground, no prep, no lessons, that might not work out so well. Additionally, I also hope that Mr. Ducky here got the required stuff he needed. Things like copies of his driver's license and documentation and all of that fun stuff. Because, again, if all you do is show up at the airport and jump in an airplane and start your flying lessons, I don't know. Could you go flying? Yes. Start flight training? Maybe not. All right. Now watch me carefully as we prepare for takeoff, said Ducky. He punched buttons, pulled some knobs, pushed a little stick. Plane rolled faster and faster until he left the ground. Whoopee, says Mickey. Also, pretty good, pretty standard. Seems to work. Now, Ducky said, you take controls, and I'll tell you what to do. Mickey did everything Ducky said. I can't believe it. Mickey cried after a little while. I am actually flying an airplane. Now that sums up a lot of experiences with first students. They were always surprised when an instructor is willing, especially on that first lesson, to say, look, take controls. It's certainly gentle, but that's a cool feeling for both an instructor and a student. Here's another accurate part. Mickey had lesson after lesson, wanted to be the best pilot ever. One day Minnie said, Mickey, I haven't seen you lately. Won't you come swimming with me? I can't, Mickey told her. I'm much too busy learning to fly. About sums it up. Lots of work, lots of practice, lots of studying. Now here's where we start having issues again. This next lesson, Mickey learned what to do if the plane went into a spiral. Mickey got very dizzy, but he did everything right. Spins were taken out of the private pilot curriculum in June of 1949. This was dated 87. Why are they doing spins? Could he? Potentially. Should he? Probably not. Not quite sure it's an aerobatic airplane either, but let's give him the benefit of the doubt. Another page, another friend, wanted to do something. Too busy. Flight training. Understood. Again here with the aerobatics. Why are they upside down in private pilot training? Probably not the best. Mickey flew upside down perfectly. Good for you, said Ducky. Soon you'll be ready for your first solo flight. Spins and upside down flying. I think you're ready for first solo. All right, well, Mickey's now starting to feel a little bit left out. He's looking at his friends playing and having fun. I suppose I get that. Now, the day of Mickey's first solo, Mickey rushed to the airport. He felt nervous and excited. Good luck on your first solo flight, said Ducky. Mickey's takeoff was perfect. He then flew the plane higher and higher. He did all the special flying he had learned. He tried his best, and he did it all just right. Now, let's assume that Ducky, who doesn't seem to have a great track record, filled out all of the paperwork for this. Let's assume that he did a first solo quiz, written test. What is Mickey doing? First solos generally are, one or two trips in the pattern, and he's telling Mickey, on your first solo, let's go upside down and fly spirals. Probably not the best either. Now, Mickey doesn't even come back. Ducky radios and says, you passed. He hasn't even landed yet. How does he know? You passed the test, said Ducky. Now, why don't you spend the afternoon in the sky? Thanks, said Mickey. I feel so proud. I wish my friends were here. Proud makes sense. Happy makes sense. Ducky seems to be a bit premature in this analysis of whether he is capable or not. Now, here's the kicker part. So Mickey starts wandering around trying to figure out where his friends are. Is he at least 500 feet off the ground, making sure that he's not violating altitude? It sure doesn't look like it. So he's flying over tennis courts. He's flying over pools, 500, populated areas, 1,000, certainly not 1,000. Now, he gets to the point where he finds his friends. Where can everybody be, Mickey wondered. Suddenly, below him, he saw a big banner. Banner said, we miss you, Mickey. Under the banner sat Minnie and Donald and Goofy, Pluto, Daisy, the whole gang, setting up their picnic. So what does Mickey do on his first solo? He lands the plane in a park. Really? I'm pretty sure somebody would have called the cops. News crews, the whole deal. Mickey grinned and waved, landed his plane next to the banner. Props still spinning. Everybody's all there. Seems like a great plan. I missed all of you, he said. I get carried away with my flying lessons. But I'm glad I learned how to fly. As if after your first solo, you're done. Food's on. They eat, they celebrate, they be merry. What does Mickey do? He passed his first solo. He hasn't reported back into his flight instructor, and now he's going to take back off from the field he landed in. No weight and balance, no performance, and with a passenger. Student pilots aren't allowed to take passengers. So, what can we learn from this? Children's books can be great incentives to pilots. Apparently it worked on me. But I'm really glad I didn't follow in Ducky's footsteps. So, thanks for joining me for this fun little story. Both Mickey and Ducky violated, but really good role models. Happy New Year, everybody.